And we spend a massive amount of time on this deep dive, and just in life generally, really trying to fix ourselves. We read all the productivity hacks, we try to meditate, we try to be better men. We act like if we just tweak our habits enough, everything will just click into place. But what if that entire premise is a lie? What if you are not actually broken? What if the machine you are trying to plug yourself into is, rigged against you?
It is a really provocative opening, but it is exactly the question we are tackling today. We're doing a deep dive into a source that is honestly less of a self-help guide and more of it's a declaration of war on the modern status quo.
Yeah, we are talking about the ebook Anti-Woke, The Man's Guide to Fighting Back Against Gay Race Gender Communism by Conrad Riker.
And let me just say right off the bat, this is not a light, breezy beach read.
Oh, definitely not.
No, it is an ultra-long, incredibly incisive, and fascinating manifesto. Riker essentially lays out a survival guide for the modern man living in what he calls a gynocracy.
A Janocracy.
Right.
Which he describes as a system designed to extract male labor, use it up, and then discard the man the second he isn't useful anymore.
Exactly. And the mission of this deep dive today is to really understand the history Riker lays out, specifically how our institutions functioned before they were, as he puts it, captured by feminists and Marxists.
But we aren't just looking at the history, right? We are looking at the roadmap he offers for men to reclaim their power, their dignity, and their future.
Right. But before we get into the heavy stuff, and trust me, it gets very heavy today, we need to ask you to please like and subscribe to the show right now.
Yes, please do. It really helps us keep the lights on so we can bring you these deep dives into independent, bold content like this. And if you want to follow along, you should check Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books to buy the book, or follow the author at Conrad and Riker on Substack.
Because today we are unpacking some data that you generally will not hear in the mainstream. We're going to talk about the brutal reality of divorce courts, a concept Riker calls the glass cellar, and the actual data behind the so-called wage gap.
So let's start with the foundation. Riker talks about the matrix of institutions. He argues that education and academia have been totally overtaken by what he calls the woke mind virus. Now, we hear woke a lot, but how is he actually defining it here?
He is defining it strictly through the lens of cultural Marxism. Riker makes the point that this wasn't a violent revolution. People didn't storm the gates with torches. It was a slow infiltration.
He calls it the long march through the institutions, right?
Exactly. He describes it as ideologues getting their PhDs back in the 70s and 80s, publishing these obscure papers on things like heteronormative hegemony, and slowly, very slowly, taking over university departments one by one.
So it wasn't an explosion, it was more like a slow leak.
Precisely. And the result, he argues, is that universities stopped being about seeking truth and started being about training activists. He brings up the specific case of Dr. Jocelyn Lipinski to prove this point.
Right, the biology professor.
Yes. She was a professor mentioned in the book who was fired, stripped of her tenure and her entire career simply for stating during a classroom discussion that biological sex is real.
Wait, she didn't attack anyone? She didn't use a slur?
No. She simply stated that in mammals, there is male and female. That is it. And for that, she was removed. Riker uses this to argue that we are in a war on biology. If you cannot state a fundamental biological fact without losing your livelihood, then the institution is captured.
And he argues this war on biology is specifically a war on boys, doesn't he? Like, this indoctrination starts way before you even get to a university campus.
Oh, it starts in kindergarten. Riker argues that the entire education system has been retooled to favor female traits. If you think about the modern classroom sitting still for 6 hours, following instructions quietly, seeking approval from the teacher, heavy verbal communication.
Yeah, those are traits that generally come more naturally to young girls.
Right. And boys.
I mean, I was a boy. We want to run, we want to compete, we want to build things and break things.
Exactly. And Riker points out that those natural boy traits, high energy, competitiveness, roughhousing, are now pathologized. We don't say he is a high energy boy anymore. We say he has a disorder.
She talks about how we're medicating millions of boys with Ritalin just to get them to sit still and act like girls.
It is a terrifying thought. We are chemically altering boys to fit a system that, according to the book, hates them. And the tragedy is the data supports Riker here. He points out that when you put boys in an environment that actually suits them,
like single-sex school.
Right, with structured physical activity and competition, their depression rates drop significantly, their academic performance skyrockets, they thrive.
But of course, those programs are getting defunded in the name of inclusion.
Precisely. Riker argues that by forcing boys to be inclusive and act like girls, we are destroying their potential before they even hit puberty.
Okay, so let's say you survive the school system. You grow up, you get a job, you meet someone. This brings us to one of the most controversial parts of the book, the marriage plantation.
Yeah, plantation is a very deliberate word choice by Riker. He is arguing that marriage, legally speaking, is no longer a partnership, it is a liability. He calls it a financial ambush.
The stats he drops here are just staggering. He says 90% of divorces are initiated by women. 90%.
It completely shatters the myth that men are the ones leaving families. And when you combine that with the fact that 80% of custody goes to mothers, you start to see the structural imbalance he is talking about.
Riker's argument is that in the eyes of the family court system, men are not husbands or fathers. They are assets to be liquidated.
There was that story in the book, The Cybersecurity Entrepreneur from Vancouver. That one really stuck with me.
Can you walk us through that? Because it is brutal.
It is a heartbreaking story, but it is crucial to understanding Riker's point. Here is a guy who did everything right. He built a successful company, bought a beautiful home, provided for his wife and 2 kids. He was the absolute model provider. But the marriage hits a rough patch. The wife files for divorce.
And this is where the system kicks in.
Right. She takes the house, she takes the bulk of the liquid assets, and effectively, she takes the kids. While this man is living in a rental apartment watching his life's work evaporate, his ex-wife launches an Instagram page about her personal recovery and finding herself.
Using his money.
Exactly. And he couldn't take it. He ended up taking his own life.
Wow.
And Riker points out the final insult. The obituary didn't even mention his fatherhood. It just wiped him out completely. It really illustrates the human cost of what Riker calls institutionalized maternal supremacy.
It feels like the system assumes the man is the bad guy by default. Like, Riker brings up something called the Duluth model regarding domestic violence. I'd never heard of this before reading the book.
Most people haven't, but it is standard policy in many jurisdictions across North America. The Duluth model essentially starts from the premise that domestic battering is a result of patriarchal power and control.
Okay, so what does that mean in practice?
It means if police arrive at a domestic dispute, the policy encourages them to view the man as the predator and the woman as the victim, regardless of who actually started the physical altercation.
So even if she hits him first, he could be the one going to jail.
Often, yes, because the model assumes his male power makes him the inherent threat. Riker argues this strips men of due process and basic legal protection in their own homes.
There was another story that really highlighted the hypocrisy of the courts. The welder from Michigan.
Right. This man worked 60-hour weeks, hard physical labor. He built his daughter a treehouse with his own hands. He drove 200 miles round trip every single weekend just to see her.
But he lost custody because the court decided he was emotionally distant.
Because he was working.
Because he was providing.
Exactly. Riker uses this to show the catch-22. The system demands the paycheck. If he didn't work, he wouldn't be able to pay support and he would go to jail.
But because he works to pay the support, he is punished for not being present enough.
It proves Riker's point perfectly. The system wants a compliant paycheck dad, not an actual father.
That leads us right into the economic reality. We hear about the wage gap constantly. Every year, there is a new campaign, a new hashtag. But Riker says it is a lie smashed by data.
He breaks this down very logically. He calls it a fraud. He argues that the gap vanishes when you control for choices. Men are far more likely to take night shifts. They are more likely to take dangerous jobs. They are more likely to travel for work.
And women, statistically, prioritize flexibility, safety, and work-life balance.
So it is the fraud of demanding equal pay without equal sacrifice. That is Riker's phrasing. And he contrasts the wage gap with what he calls the glass cellar.
We always talk about the glass ceiling, women reaching the C-suite, but nobody talks about the bottom.
The glass cellar.
That is a powerful image. What is down there?
The bodies of men. The data shows men make up 93% of workplace deaths, 98% of mining deaths, 95% of firefighter fatalities.
Riker's point is that society celebrates a female CEO breaking the glass ceiling, but completely ignores the man who gets electrocuted fixing the power line during a storm so her laptop stays charged.
It is invisible labor, or rather disposable labor. We don't care if men die, as long as the lights stay on.
Right. And when you look at the corporate world, Riker discusses the diversity hire phenomenon.
Yes, where competent men are being passed over simply to meet quotas. But the most culturally relevant comparison he makes, and I thought this was brilliant, is between Elon Musk and Taylor Swift.
Oh, I loved this part. Gynocentric inflation.
Think about it. Elon Musk is building rockets. He is revolutionizing electric vehicles. He is creating brain-computer interfaces. He is doing objectively massive, tangible things for the human species.
Yet the media narrative often paints him as a villain, a tyrant, a misogynist.
And then you have Taylor Swift, who sings songs about her ex-boyfriends.
And she is celebrated as a genius, a hero, a cultural icon.
Riker uses this to illustrate that we have inflated the value of female emotional expression, singing about feelings, and completely deflated the value of male tangible achievement like building rockets.
It is not just the news media, though. It is entertainment, too. Riker talks about the war on fatherhood in movies and TV.
The doofus dad trope, you see it in every single sitcom. The dad is an idiot, a giant child who can't figure out the washing machine. And the mom is the competent, long-suffering manager of the house.
Or the dad is he's just gone.
That is the superhero movie trope. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. The father is dead. He serves as a plot device. His death forces the hero to become independent. Riker argues that a living, strong father is a rival to the narrative.
The culture cannot tolerate a strong present patriarch because he represents an authority separate from the state, so he has to be erased.
And if you are present and strong, that is when they hit you with the toxic masculinity label.
Which Riker argues is a weapon, not a diagnosis.
It creates a double bind. If a man is aggressive, competitive, and stoic, he is toxic. If he is not, he is weak. You literally cannot win. And he notes that even the American Psychological Association had to retract support for some of their guidelines on this because clinicians revolted.
They realized they were pathologizing normal, healthy male behavior.
Exactly. Now, we have to touch on his take on porn, because it is a bit different than the usual moral argument. He calls it the porn paradox.
Right, he describes it as digital bread and circuses. Like in ancient Rome, they kept the mob happy with free food and entertainment so they wouldn't revolt. Riker argues that porn is a trap designed to keep men pacified. It provides a synthetic escape.
So instead of going out and finding a real partner or building a business or actually changing his life,
He gets a cheap dopamine hit and goes to sleep. It keeps him enslaved to the grind because he has this outlet. It neutralizes his drive to conquer and improve.
So we have painted a pretty bleak picture here today. Institutions are captured, marriage is a trap, work is dangerous, and the media hates us.
It feels overwhelming. But Riker doesn't just leave us in the pit. He pivots to solutions. What does he say we should actually do?
This is where we get into the red pill and the heel turn.
Define red pill in Riker's context for us.
He is very clear that it is not about hate, it is about clarity. It is about seeing the matrix for what it really is. Once you understand the rules are rigged, that the HR department isn't your friend, that the family court isn't fair, you stop playing by those rules expecting a fair result.
You stop being shocked when you get screwed over.
Exactly. And the heel turn.
That is a wrestling term, isn't it? When the good guy decides to stop playing nice.
Right. But here it means embracing silent strength. Riker advises men to stop apologizing for their competence. Stop begging for approval from a society that despises you. Stop trying to be the male feminist ally, hoping they will eat you last.
He has some very practical steps, too. The first one is financial independence.
He calls it the imperative to escape the plantation. You cannot be free if you are dependent on a corporate paycheck from a company that wants to fire you for a microaggression. You need sovereignty. You need that walkaway money.
And legally.
His advice is blunt. Avoid marriage. He views it as a contract where the other party is incentivized to break it.
And if you must marry?
Demand an ironclad prenup. Never co-sign debt. He views legal entanglement with the current state of family law as essentially playing Russian roulette with a fully loaded gun.
He also talks about physicality.
Yeah.
Getting strong.
Yes. Lift weights. Learn to fight. It is not about going out and hurting people. It is about capability. Riker argues there's a biological reality to being a man. When you are physically capable, you carry yourself differently. You are harder to oppress.
Violence, or at least the capacity for it, is actually what secures peace.
Yeah.
If you are harmless, you aren't peaceful, you are just helpless.
Exactly. And finally, brotherhood. He mentions men's sheds in Australia.
I love this concept. These are male-only spaces. No women allowed. Not because they hate women, but because men behave differently when they are alone together. The masks come off.
They can share tactics on divorce traps. They can talk about workplace bias without fear of being reported to HR. They can rebuild solidarity.
It is really about reclaiming the narrative.
Riker urges men to reject the victim label. Yes, the game is rigged. Yes, it is unfair. But crying about it doesn't help. That is not the male way. The goal is sovereignty and legacy, building something that lasts despite the opposition.
It is a call to action.
It is a slap in the face, and frankly, it is a slap a lot of guys probably need right now.
Look, we have covered a lot, but we have only scratched the surface of the data and the stories in this book. Riker goes deep into the history and the specific laws in a way we just can't cover in 20 minutes.
If you found this discussion interesting, if it sparked something in you, you really need to read the full text. It is a brutal but necessary wake-up call.
Absolutely. You need to get the full arsenal of arguments. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Playbooks right now and buy Anti-Woke, the man's guide to fighting back against gay race gender communism. It is an ultra-long, incisive read that you won't want to put down.
And you should also follow the author directly. He is active on Substack. You can follow him at Conrad and Riker on Substack for ongoing updates in his newsletter. He is always releasing new data that backs up these claims.
Do it. Get the book on Amazon or Google Play. Follow the Substack. And hey, before you go, remember to like and subscribe to this channel. We need your support to keep doing these deep dives into topics that the mainstream media ignores.
One final thought from the book to leave you with. Riker writes, "The feminist empire is built on lies. When a system fails, something else rises to take its place. That something is men."
So the question is, are you ready to stop apologizing for your existence? Thanks for listening. We will see you on the next deep dive.